first. So, good evening to everyone. And first of all, I welcome you, all those who are present here, to this workshop or webinar, which you can call it as. I thought of let me create a toolkit for the teachers, which may help them. I know maximum of you may be using so many of the practices already, but let's have a quick revision on some of the practices which we may be missing. So as I'll start sharing my screen, I won't be able to see you people. So in case of any doubt, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. So shall I start? Shall I start?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the other resource person, I guess, has not joined yet.
I think she has not joined. Let me just... Yes, I think now it is clearly visible, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. I'll start with this. And in case if the meeting ends, please start using the same link. Rejoin using the same link. So as the name of the webinar itself says, my toolkit for session 25-26. Now, like moving ahead, as I've already said, there may be many practices which you people may be following, but again, to revise is always better than to be thinking about that we know everything. Here is like a little introduction. I'm Mrs. Meenukar Chawla. I'm working with the Allen House Public School as Senior Academic Coordinator. I'm an NLP practitioner, a CBT practitioner, an author, a soft skill trainer, and a CBSE resource person as well. My co-resource person, Mrs. Aswini Srinivasan, could not join probably because she's not keeping well or she's a little too occupied. So in case if she joins, it would be really nice. But let's move ahead with the agenda of today's meeting. And that is, as I've already said, the group which I have created is created with an intention to empower teachers to review our teaching practices, to make a collaborative classroom, and also, the learning should become more of learner-centric. And then a very important thing which plays an important role in our life, that is lesson planning. And then we'll be talking about zero period. And what is the zero period? Why is it important? And which zero period am I talking about? We shall discover. Now, as this picture says, this teaching is not only about, using your brain, but it is that platform which brings hand, heart, and head together. So this workshop is just a little attempt to ensure that we as teachers are able to build connections before we start correcting any of the students in our classroom. Most of the time, we want that the children should be performing good, great, and all that. But remember, that will happen only once when we build strong connection, in other language, which we call it as rapport, with the students. Now, first thing first is identifying the needs of the students and tailoring the content. We all know that not all the learners have the same learning style. Some learners are auditory, some are visual learners, some are kinesthetic learners, and so on. So first thing first is, before the session begins, just ensure that you should be knowing very well about the previous academic background of the student who is in your class. Let's say right now the schools and the classes are flooded with new admissions. So at times, we as class teachers or subject teachers are too busy, just keeping the record of how many students are there, house allotment, and so many other things are to be kept, to be taken care of. But what I believe is the most important is, knowing in detail about that particular child, What what has been his learning style? How good is he at learning? Just keep the record of the entrance test marks with you, so that you know, once, I mean, one test is this test which the child is going through when the child has just taken admission in your school. Obviously, the marks of this entrance test are going to play a very important role when you will reflect at the result, like when you will reflect at when your hard work and your practices will be reflected in the upcoming exams. Let's say periodic assessment 1. If you're able to see at the time of entrance exam, the child was, the child scored 10 out of 20, but now I have been able to bring him up to that level where he is scoring already 15 or 16 out of 20. That's a great achievement. And how do we get to know this? Only when we are able to identify what exactly is the need of the student, how, what, or by what method does this child grasp better, and then tailoring the content according to that. I know, being teachers, it's not easy for us to, to be making so many of the lesson plans. One lesson plan is like, it's time taking and all, but still we always have to be ready with plan B when it comes to ensure that our classes go the best. So first thing first is identifying the needs of the students and tailoring the content according to the needs. Moving ahead to the next slide, foster a receiver's mindset. Now, if I am a giver and you are a taker, you won't be able to take, or you won't be able to accept the thing if you don't want to. And maximum of the time, it starts with our class. It happens in our classroom that, we enter in the classroom with full on energy and zeal and with this thought, yes, today I have prepared the content so well. And, today I'm going to rock the class. But at times, children are not in that mood to be accepting what have you brought for them. Let's say, for example, you're teaching, and suddenly you find a child is fidgeting with a pen or probably a ball or something. Most of the time, we take away that distractor from the hand of the child. But are we able to remove that distraction from the mind of that child? Most of the time, we are unable to do that. So, when we have to foster a receiver's mindset, first thing first is bring the child into a calm and and into a composed kind of a thing. Let his brain be focused into one particular direction. That direction can be, the children may be looking into your eyes, you may be talking, tell them to close their eyes and feel connected to your voice. It can be, you can just tell them to close their eyes and take some deep breath, a meditation, a meditation session of hardly 2 minutes, or just enter and start the class with a positive affirmation each day. And when you're starting your class with the positive affirmation, tell the child to repeat that affirmation after you. Once you will see, I mean, though, but we may be thinking already the period is 40 minutes and 5 minutes are taken away when by for settling the children, and then they take out the books and the notebooks, and then half of them are, sorry sir and ma'am, we haven't brought the notebooks and books. So how are we going to manage the time for this? In the upcoming slides, I'll be talking about that also. But always remember, without bringing the person into a receiver's mindset, and especially a student, learning won't happen. So I hope till here it's very clear. Any question till here? Okay. So I'll be...
No.
Okay. Now, here is how can we, the third slide talks about promote interactive and engaged learning sessions. Now, engaged learning session necessarily does not mean that engaging session has to be between the student and the teacher. This engaging learning session can happen between two students also. start the practicing of start this practice of making the study buddy in your classes. One one child who is already an active learner, and one learner who whom we I prefer calling them as learners on the way, rather than calling them as slow learners or weak students or what. Just pair an advanced learner with a learner on the way. And then, this peer mentoring or study buddy method, it acts like a magic potion. What we as a teachers fail to do, the students do for each other. Then it's the flipped learning, which I know most of us are well aware of. But in this flipped learning, let's add an extra element to it. At times, most of the time, flipped learning is done. Okay, today you conduct the class, or you already provide some material to the student, which they review, and then they come up with their questions, and then that way the class is conducted. But let's try doing it some other way at times, because each class has sections. One class may have 3 section or 4 section. Sometimes, with the permission of your authorities, the teachers should exchange the classes. Okay, normally I'm teaching A section. Let me go to B section today, and you go to A section and review the already taught part. This is how we as teachers get to know what is lacking in my teaching style. So this not only acts as a change for the student, but also a tool to know, okay, I could have done this thing this way. So this is going to give you double benefit. Then conduct some small student exchange programs. Now, what are these student exchange programs, and how can it be conducted at the school level? Let's say sometimes the students of class 6, they can go and teach class, let's say class 4. Class 11 students can come and teach, or not the bookish learning, but let's say learning out of the classroom scenario. They can just guide class 10 or class 9 students that, see, when we were in class 10, we did these mistakes. So as your seniors, we are here to tell you what not to be doing, so that you excel like anything. Then obviously the time is shifting to PBL, that is the project based learning, which again is practiced at the various levels. But most of the time, when it comes to project based learning, we link it only with science, and at times social science. With so many increased pedagogies and methodologies, this PBL, or the project based learning, can be used for teaching language subjects, maths, everything it can be used for. Then think, ink, and share. Here, as I said, when you're going to make study buddies, just give them some food for thought. Tell them to brainstorm. They'll be thinking, then they'll be writing, and then, or you can do this activity by dividing the class into groups. And then one of the group representative can come and share the idea of that group with a larger group. So this way, it not only develops their language, but also removes this public speaking fear, which they have. Normally children are fear of, no, they are scared of, I'll not go on the stage. It's fearful, and I'll fumble, and I'll do this and I'll do that. But no, let that happen. Then create some learning stations for them. Now, again, once in a month, we as teachers can, convert the classroom into separate stations. Let's say this Saturday, my classroom will be conducted into English and maths learning station. So there will be two platforms, where on one platform, the students will be talking only and only about English, and on the other platform, students will be talking only and only about maths. Now, you can even make it bagless, yet it can be very, very fruitful session, learning happening without the bag, without the textbook. And again, as this NEP says, collaborative learning, more of learner-centric. So this is how, by creating stations, we can conduct more of collaborative, and especially the learner-centric classes. Then, this I came across this, like, when we visit to a restaurant, we just go through menus to select, okay, what am I going to eat today? What if we start creating the learning menus for the student and hang it somewhere in the classroom? And you know what? The most interesting thing is you can create it in your own lesson plan also. Just take the photocopy of that, and let's say if I'm English teacher, right? So learning menu means this entire 15 days, let's say, because we prepare lesson plan for 15 days. So this is the menu of 15 days. Now you select and tell which dish would you want to eat first. And this is very kind of useful exercise when you do it, especially with the children who are in class 5 or 6, because they, when you're giving them the same thing but in a very attractive way, they actually love learning. So these are some of the ways in which you can make your classrooms more interactive and learner centric. Am I clear till here? Any question till here? Okay, so I'll be moving ahead. Now, the 3 R's. Let us review our lesson planning. Now, what these 3 R's? These 3 R's, how, I mean, this is most of the time, we just, when we enter into the classroom, our complete focus is on, let me be, finishing with the syllabus. But what if we just, uh, kind of reflect and then rigor, and then start teaching to the children without reviewing, without rigor? How can we come to the reflection again? So these 3 R's, I'll be sharing a separate document for this in the in that teacher's toolkit, because this is something which is a very, very good thing, and it actually helps a lot. Why? Because when you're preparing your lesson plan, keeping in mind these 3 R's, that I have to review, then rigor is like, how am I going to know? First thing first is, what are we learning? How are we learning? And then how are we going to recall that? So this reviewing lesson plan, when I'm talking about, I am talking about making lesson plans in such a way that it reflects each and everything very, very properly. Plan it period wise rather than making it day wise or 15 days altogether, or okay, these are 8 periods which I have got in these 15 days, and I've just compiled these 15 days ka lesson planning. No, it shouldn't be that way. Rather, plan it period wise. Each period, if is planned meticulously, it adds some different element not only to your teaching, but also, I mean, you will be able to see the better learning outcomes in the children. As I said, the most important thing, understanding zero period. Now, what is this zero period? Zero period is that one period of the teacher in a month where you should just sit down and reflect, what have you taught through this and throughout the month. I taught verbs, I taught tenses, I taught this. And when you're doing this, you're supposed to be sitting with your students only, so that you can interact. Okay, dear students, this was the learning menu which we did for this month. Now, out of this menu, I have just, put a tick mark on, we finished this, we ate this, we ate this, we ate this. Now, tell me which one dish or which one thing out of menu were you not able to absorb thoroughly. So then, once when you sit with your children, you take pause of that period, and taking pause of that period, just recall what all you did, and learning menu will help you doing this. And then reflect, okay, 10 students out of the strength of 40 were not able to understand the concept of, let's say, past tense. 5 were not able to understand the concept of future continuous tense. Let's say this. So each month, if you sit for just those 40 minutes with your students and take a pause, recall taking help of your teaching menu of that month, then you'll be able to reflect, and this gives you an access of learners on the way on monthly basis. Once you start doing this practice, you will be able to identify, okay, these are some of the students which need extra hand holding. And this zero period is one of the most wonderful and very, very helpful tool which should be added into each and every teacher's toolkit. Moving ahead, resource readiness. We all are, I mean, there are, we have been into teaching profession for so many years, but still at times, it is natural. I'm not saying that we do it on purpose, but once we have been taking a particular class for, let's say, 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, we become comfortable. Okay, if I don't even read the book this time, I think I'll be able to handle the class well. Yes, there is no doubt that you'll be able to handle not only class well, but in the best way. There's no doubt in it. But whenever I enter in the class, I always enter with two thoughts in my mind. First thought is, it may be 50th class for me, but it is the first class of that child who's sitting and waiting for his teacher to come and tell him something which he has not been knowing before. So that excitement, that, eagerness to learn should not die. And this starts from me. If I'll be going unprepared in my class, because then, I'll be repetitive in my strategies. Okay, 10 times I've started my class this way. Let me start my class this way, the 11th way also. Fine, I'll be at ease with this. But then where is that excitement? Because every lot of student which comes is very different, and a generation ahead of, or a generation of children ahead of whom you taught last year. So if they are some years ahead in terms of biological age of the previously taught students, so is their mental level also. So if you're telling them the thing in a simple way, which they must have been heard, they have all have an access to YouTube and this and that, everything. So, uh, the energy of the child goes down. So be prepared with your resource bank. Every teacher should have his or her own personal resource banks. Then when I say AO, assessment objective based worksheets, assessment objective is the main thing which should be defining the agenda of my worksheet. Today, I want the students to reflect upon how many chemical equations are used when I'm talking about the term photosynthesis. So if my assessment objective is reflection, my questions should also be based on the same. Then again, a very, very important tip, and that is, we teach a chapter. Okay, let's say, because every class, if I take the example of verbs, or let's say in maths, we teach fractions. The maths teachers teach fraction. So fraction is something, I guess, which is introduced to the children when they come in standard 3 or 4, but at a very simple level. So when a child comes in standard 5, and now you have to teach the fraction, prepare one small assessment, a pre-assessment, where you'll be preparing questions based on what the child learned when the child was in standard 3 or standard 4. And if you're taking for class 5, write down those marks. Teach the student revise the old concepts, teach the new concept, again, take a small assessment. I'm not saying assessment should be very long, should be very boring. It may have 7 to 10, or let's say 5 to 7 questions. But this is how, again, you get a tool to understand. Before I taught the concept, the child was standing at this level, and after I have taught the concept, I can either see a progress, or I can see the child still standing at the same point from where I started. So this pre and post assessment method or worksheets help you to identify how many students have actually got that learning outcome which you wanted to convey. Then obviously we all have some children who are children with special needs. How are we going to meet the needs of those special children? That also is an extra responsibility. So while preparing the worksheets, either prepare some separate worksheets for them where at least they feel, okay, I was also able to score 5 out of 8. So that again is, either you can include those questions in that same worksheet, or you can prepare completely separate worksheets for those children, which help them to, acknowledge them as a part of the class. Then homework. Normally the homework is like we give, okay, write down the question answers, back exercises, read the chapter. But as in the last webinar, we talked about how is CBSE trying to bring parent and teachers and student, because student is the center. So how is CBSE trying to bring the parent and the teacher at the collaborative level? So when you're planning your homework, plan your homework in a way that parents have at least a little involvement in that. I'm not saying to give a complex homework, because these days, obviously, parents are also busy. But that little 15 minutes or 20 minutes of your homework session can become a wonderful bonding time between your student and his parents. So when you're preparing your homework, that is why I was talking about lesson planning. Lesson planning has to be done way advanced and period wise, which defines this is going to be my class teaching agenda today, and this is going to be my homework today. And these very small changes, some may be feeling, oh, how is this going to even make a difference? But trust me on this, these small things make a great, great, great difference in your classroom teachings. Moving ahead, these are just, we are now more than teachers. We are their facilitators, we are their counselors. Bygone are the days when teachers had just one role, and that is to go and start teaching. But now we have to give them that space where students can come and share whatever they want to be sharing with us. Give them that trust, give them that, open space, give them that dialogue, make them feel safe in your presence. Be their confidant that yes, no matter what, no matter how big the problem is, but you can always come and talk to me. And again, when I say be their confidant, which at times we as teachers do when we reach to the staff room, we discuss. I'm not saying we do it on purpose, but at times, when we sit in the staff room, we discuss about the children. My student did not do this, XYZ was behaving this way. And then, the XYZ told me this, that he or she is going through this problem. So are we the confidants of the children? The child came to us gathering all the strength which he or she had, and with the trust that no matter what, my teacher is not going to let my secret be out. But when we bring it to the staff room, when we discuss it over the table in the staff room, then no, we just start breaking that bond of faith, bond of trust which the children have, which the children vest in us. So whenever a child comes and confesses something, try to keep it to yourself only. This meeting shall end in next 10 minutes, but in case if it ends, please rejoin using the same link. I hope I'm clear till here. Any doubt till here? Any doubt till here, or shall I be moving ahead?
Please move ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Then, positive reinforcement. Most of the time, when we talk about, as I was telling, the learners on the way, more and more of reinforcers, the positive reinforcers, as I discussed earlier, taking a ball away from the hand of the child is not the solution. Trust me, you can snatch away the ball from the child's hand, but you cannot bring his brain back to where you want to. So, time and again, conditioning, time and again, positive reinforcement, and just making the child believe. There are so many students I know who are actually, they don't intend to study, and then they disturb the class a lot. But then, if they know 10 ways of how to disturb the class, we as teachers should be at least equipped with 15 ways how to convert that, distraction into that reinforcement where the child sits and learns. And as I was talking, anecdotal records play a very, very important role. And these anecdotal records should not only be the record of academic growth, it should be the record of behavioral changes, which you see throughout the year in the child. Then it's is it like, how is he behaving with his peers, how's the child behaving with the teachers, has he been, has he started showing eager participation in the competitions being conducted at the school level, or has he started withdrawing from all these things? So this anecdotal record is not only the work of the class teacher. Share it with all the subject teachers, whosoever is coming in your class and is interacting with your bunch of students. Each and every teacher should have an access to that anecdotal record and make a soft copy of it, so that every teacher feels free to put his or her remark. And these remarks should not be making use of any negative statement. Rather, it should be the euphemistic way of putting the same thing. And once the session is over, pass on those links to the next year's teachers. So this is how, they get to get the background also. Then every child is unique. We need to identify what is the uniqueness in that child. That child, like, I have a practice, and that practice is, I always prepare one separate report card which states my unique strength. Most of the time, we conduct award ceremonies for the children who are performing excellent at the academic level. But what about those children who just, who are not able to meet up that academic excellence, but are very good dancers? They have a great, interest, and they have reflected great moves in singing, dance, or art and craft, or whatever. Why can't we just identify those talents and prepare a separate report card of all those talents which the child has? And trust me, when you send back the parent with that extra report card, the pride and the thankfulness which the parent has in his or her own eyes is what we as teachers crave for. Then, as in the last webinar, we talked about CBSE is already planning how can we build bridges with the parents. And I mean, those who have missed the previous webinar, they can go on my YouTube channel and can see there. How can you do that? The practices are already mentioned in that way. Then again, communication. Communication is something which can either strengthen the bond or can break the bond at all. So we as teachers, no matter how heavy baggages, emotional baggages we may be carrying on our shoulders, but that should not reflect in any of our ways. When we are speaking to the children, how are we behaving to with the children? What are we conveying? Am I saying with my wholeheartedness whatever am I trying to teach to that child? So communication should be very, very thoughtful and calculative. Then this is like, the last slide, which says obviously creating a learner centric classroom is an ongoing process. And this is something, which can never come to an end. It's just a second. Yes. So this is something which can never come to an end, but it's that we have to just, be prepared every day, strengthen up. Just a second. Okay. Strengthen up with whatever we have, equip us with many more things. And this is how only we can, become from good to better and better to best. So with this, I finish with my presentation. Any question or any thought which you would like to express, I'm more than eager to hear to that.
Thank you so much, Minu ma'am. A very insightful session it was. Very simple techniques and tips, but with a huge impact. I really agree, and uh, a step towards being better, and hopeful to be the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having joined this. And with this, I just put on the recording to a stop, and I'll be sharing the feedback link in the group. Thank you.